Hey everybody, Ethan here. You're on my side of the room. And today I want to talk about something that affects many of us who are musically inclined, and it's a thing called GAS. That's Gear Acquisition Syndrome. And what that is, as might be suggested in the title, is that sense that you have to keep shopping for and acquiring more and more gear. And I'm here to tell you, completely as the antithesis to everybody else on YouTube, it seems, you don't need it, or you don't need as much of it as you believe you do. Now, I'm not the last word on this. This is my opinions and advice, and heed them as you will, or don't. But the thing with YouTube, I'm finding, is especially from the music end of it, it's fantastic for people just pounding you over the head with just buy, buy, buy. They're just constantly dazzling you with new whatever it is. New guitars, new equipment, new pedals, new amps, new da 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 da. And after a while, you can only kind of play one guitar at a time, and you can kind of only play through one amp at a time. And it's not to say you can only play one pedal at a time, but that does beg the question, like, just how many overdrives do you need, really? And it's fantastic if people want to give you stuff, because there's companies that'll do that. Like if you reach a certain level of prominence of some sort, they're all about sending you things, and that's fine. And it's not limited to music stuff. It happens in other realms of the world as well. Ask my wife about the nail polish end of it. Not that she gets any free stuff from anybody, but she could someday maybe with her 1,000 bottles plus. Well, the thing is, I do acquire gear, so it's not like I don't buy stuff, because I certainly do. My thing is, I'm very strategic about what I buy and why I buy it. And when I was young, the reason was I bought it because it existed, or I bought it because it was on sale, or I bought it because I saw it in a magazine or something, but it doesn't mean I needed it. And depending on what it was something that just collected dust. And to use a Star Wars analogy, if you just go around acquiring stuff, what you're going to end up with is this. And you bought, you acquired, and that's it. I mean, literally, sorry, Han, but it hangs on the wall, or it sits in a box, or it collects dust somewhere, and you're probably not using it. Now, the realities on the ground are, depending on what it is in that sentence, it may not be something that realistically you can use all the time. People who collect cars, you'll hear people say, like, well, but you can only drive one at a time. Well, it's kind of the same with, as an example, bass guitars. You can only play one at a time. So it does beg the question why you would need or want an entire room full. Conversely, what you're not seeing on the other side of the camera, unless I flip it, let's flip it. Bam! That is Buddy Smidge of Jamie's side of the room. She literally has got her 1,000th nail polish bottle, like, in the mail right now. All right, the reason I showed you that, well, she has 5 fingers on each hand, and that's a lot of nail polish. The thing about it, and I completely 100% support her and very much enable her in her nail polish acquisition, they're all different. And I know through her and through the videos she's watched and everything to learn more about it, there's different formulas and different coatings and different, like, there's matte, there's glossy, there's iridescent, there's hollow, there's glitter as opposed to hollow, there's cremes, there's all these different things and all these different approaches you can do where you'd be layering stuff and doing stamping and vinyls and all that sort of business. And it is pretty astounding, like what you can do with nail polish, and then just how much of it there is out there. So yes, it makes sense for her to have so much of it, insofar as I can say that, relative to people who don't have that much nail polish. Um, it's justified in that she does use it over time, and then she kind of is aware of like the stuff that just it's not getting used and it's not ever gonna, and it will get purged. But she'll just be right back up to 1,000 bottles again anyway with like better stuff. Well, the real estate on that is not the same as if I had 1,000 guitars. And the thing is, I can only play one at a time, and as opposed to nail polish, I can't pick up 5 guitars and play them all. I'm not Rick Nielsen. so so it's just one of those things where like I have 2 basses, and that's more than enough for me right now, because one sits on the bench and one gets more use than the other one does. It's just that's how it goes. So with gassing, again, the YouTube and everything else is just full of it, where they're just constantly pounding you with buy, buy, buy. And depending on what's going on in your life, you might be thinking, well, I got to keep up, or I want to be like the pros or whatever, and I've got to have what they have because they have it, and they said it's good. But then the next pros came along and they said this was good. And then the next people came along and they said this was good. Well, I better get them all, and I'll have it all, and I'm going to be like the ultimate power in the universe when the time comes, because I'm going to have all this amazing stuff. And if I answer an ad, then they say, you better have pro gear. Oh, I got pro gear. Bring out all their pro gear that's been sitting. So I was thinking about gassing, and thought, you know what, rather than shake the finger of shame about gassing, both at myself and you, the viewer, if this is an issue for you, that you've got gear acquisition syndrome, instead, how about we reframe it and own it, and own that instead of gear acquisition syndrome, it's gear appreciation status. I can't think of what else to use for the S, so I went with status. All right, what does that even mean? Well, what it means is enjoy what you have. I know it's a radical concept, but it's a thing. When I committed to the bass, and this is the key word, is committed to the bass. I've played bass in the past. I play other instruments, and also pictured in the background somewhere, because this. I have guitars back there of various vintage. But I've committed to the bass. And the bass I've committed the most to is my Donner. Now, I'm not being paid to say this. They did not give me this. I bought it of my own hard-earned cash. If you want to get one, get one. If you don't, don't. But I love my Donner. I love it so much I modded it. I mean, I've sunk some money into this, so I think it's kind of a sign of my seriousness of how much I love this thing. Yes, I love my Schecter too. Schecter's good too, but I love the Donner so much. And I was thinking about it like, well, then appreciate what you got. I like looking at the listings of the other basses and stuff that are out there, just to kind of get an understanding of like, well, when you get into, say, the $1,000 range, what does that do for you? But in some ways it's like, but what does it do for you? My rule for gear is, do I need it? Will I use it often? And if not, then not getting it. Now that I'm gigging, then that's even more critical. So every decision I make about it's going to be, will I gig with it or do I record with it? But it's got to be one of those two things. Because if it's just going to sit because it's, I had to have it to have him, then don't do it. I can't justify the expense on this stuff to fill the apartment up full of stuff I want but don't need. So everything I have, Jamie, it's funny, she has all this nail polish and she'll fight you to the death if you say throw any of it out, and or it's unnecessary or whatever. But I buy two different fuzz pedals and the world ends. Because she can't see it the same way. She can't see that two different fuzz pedals would be in some way different. She views it as you should only ever need one fuzz pedal and then that's it for life and you're done. And it's like, well, it's not quite like that. But the ones I have, I use and I have them for specific reasons. So, and it's not just because they existed. I very much did my homework about what I wanted and why I wanted it, what sound I was going for, and what sound I would use it for. At the gig I'm at, because it's a church, I don't use any pedals. So enter my amp. This amp was bought with the intent of gigging before I ever gigged. And I wanted to make one purchase on one thing, and it was going to be the thing that I needed, and this was that thing, and it's very much proved itself. So that's me. That's my thing. I don't have a wall of amps behind me. I do have more than one amp, but again, strategically and with purpose. And yes, I do use them both. As you've seen, I do gig this regularly. You haven't, because I keep deleting the stuff, I have not been showing the other amp that I use for practice, but I'll get into that in another video. But again, strategic. Need it, use it often. And if not, then don't. I don't do it. In Jamie's case, when she gets nail polish, she does not just randomly buy everything. There's a lot of polish she doesn't own and won't. They're colors that just she's never going to use, or she's tried the brand and the brand was just junk to the point where it's like, okay, I tried it, I don't like it, I don't want any more of this. So it's kind of like that with the gear end of it, where it's like, all right, that's what's nice about YouTube, is when you're in acquisition mode, like legitimately let's say, like, I don't want that to happen. Let's just say that I'm loving my bass so much that I snapped the neck in half. And now I need a new bass because I'm an idiot and I broke my bass. And the cost to repair this would be such that it's like I could just buy another one. Time to go to YouTube and start looking at other basses then. And the other thing is, realistically, this bass will crap out. There's going to come a day that this won't be a viable bass anymore. This is not a forever bass. And if it is, then wonderful, because I love it. But if it does meet its destiny and is not a forever bass, I already kind of have an idea of what I would replace it with. But that's a contingency plan. Okay, it is not I'm going to run out and buy it right now so I have it, because I have another bass right there. So it's not like I have no bass whatsoever. This snaps in half because I love on it so hard that I now have no bass whatsoever. That's not the case at all. I do like redundancy, he says, rambling. But so if I have one guitar cable, I'll have two, because yes, you do need two, because what if one does crap out or whatever? But I don't need a room full of them. And realistically, some of that, like, it's fun if you're in the market for something, kind of like you were car shopping, so in this case, bass shopping. Yeah, those channels could be really helpful, helping you choose whether or not something is perhaps right for you or something you'd be interested in. And then there's ways and means like going to a store and physically holding it and trying it out in the showroom, which is a nice thing to be able to do instead of just picking a poke, ordering it online. There's a difference between being beat over the head with shiny objects and being in the market for one of those shiny objects. So that's the thing. Like, use YouTube to your advantage to shop for the thing you need that you're going to use often, but don't be tempted and coerced by the shiny objects, because they're not for you. You might think they are, but they're not. um, and I'm not the be all expert. I'm not Mr. Awesome. I'm just me in my studio space telling you, the viewer, if you're feeling the heat, like your YouTube feed is the same as mine, where it's just loaded with all these guys wanting to sell you stuff, is what it really comes down to. Then, I'm here to say the way to resist that is to appreciate what you got. And I'm really, really, really enjoying my Donner and my Schecter, but my Donner, and learning. I'm not a rank beginner, but I'm still learning all the time. And this and my Schecter make it fun to learn it. I don't have garbage. These are nice basses. They get the job done for me, and I enjoy them. And they feel right. And having done that, now I want to appreciate what I got. Have a contingency plan for the other stuff down the road that I may have the need for, because the need presents itself, like legitimately. But, I think you watch those hoarding shows, you kind of see a thread here, and it's not just that they hoard it, but when they talk to the person who did the hoarding, and then they do the famous, like, well, can I throw this out? No, I might need that. Well, what about this pail of garbage? No, I might need that. Well, what about this pail of poop? No, might need that too. Like, you, the viewer, are aghast, and you're like, oh, come on, how can you need a pail of poop? But you know what? Then at that point, what is the 50th overdrive pedal? Comparatively speaking, it's kind of the same. That if it's just going to sit and it's just going to collect dust, then how isn't that a pile of poop? And probably expensiver than, poop. So that's what I'm getting at. Appreciate what you got. Have a strategy for what you want, but don't get sucked in on buy and need and shiny objects. If you really truly need it, it'll be there for you. And after a while, it's like, then comes the videos about the backlash. Well, this stuff was terrible. Well, see, you didn't buy it. You didn't have these problems. So anyway, that's my thing. That's my 2 cents today. If you made it this far, I really, really appreciate it. All I can say is keep learning, keep playing, and I'll catch you next time.